Inside 3SF Magazine is on the road at Blackwing Shooting Center, Delaware, Ohio. We have a special guest today. We have Mr. Paul Giambrone III, or LP. Paul is a 15-time world skeet champion. He was inducted into the NSSA Hall of Fame in 2013. He is a master NSSA instructor and conducts shooting clinics under Giambrone Shooting Clinics, and he's here today to give lessons in addition to talking with us. Welcome, Paul.
Dan, I appreciate you having me on today, buddy. Appreciate it.
Paul, maybe our athletes and coaches would like to hear a little bit about your background. You're a relatively young guy, only 28. How did you get started?
Well, my father was shot for 30 years, and through him, that's how I got started in the sport. And I find myself here in this position today, but after many hours on the skeet field, just countless days shooting. Thankfully, we had a good setup in South Louisiana where my father and I could shoot a good bit of rounds. He managed a gun club, of course. It also had its drawbacks because we had to do so much work there, but I wouldn't trade any of it. Got to learn a lot about the game and just met some really great people along the way, but what sums it up is that we just spent a lot of hours out there shooting a lot of targets to get where I am today.
That's good advice for our young shooters out there. It takes a lot of time on the pad and lead down the barrel to get to the skill level that champions like LP have achieved.
It does. The other thing is my dad and I were very fortunate where we had a great relationship. He spent a lot of time researching different ideas, DVDs, books, talking to a lot of the top shooters. And we did have a couple of good coaches along the way to really help me. But what a lot of our deal was is that when we thought of something new or we wanted to try something new, we went out and we did it and we gave it time to work. And that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give to the youth shooters is, a lot of times nowadays we want it like now. We want the instant gratification now. And what it takes in this sport, at least in skeet shooting, is it takes a lot of time and dedication to really get to that top level.
Let me ask you this, Paul. What tips would you give those hardworking volunteer SCTP coaches that we have out there that are helping our young folks?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for the volunteers donating a lot of their time to help these kids and promote the shooting sports. You guys are responsible for helping create Second Amendment people that actually can shoot and know how to handle a shotgun and that are actually going to support those Second Amendment rights. So I want to say thank you, first of all. The big things for the coaches, when you have the kids, the first thing that I always look at is eye dominance. Let's establish if they're right or left-handed, and then let's take a look at their master eye, and let's see which eye is dominant. One of the most frustrating things for a kid, because they don't know any better, is that they do everything right-handed, but their left eye is their dominant eye. And it's very important to administer the proper eye dominance test to these kids. And keep in mind, at their age, it can change. A lot of people think, oh, well, if they're right eye dominant, they're 10 years old and that's it. There have been several cases where the dominance has shifted from that age to up to about 16 or 17 years old. So I would say the first thing is they have to definitely be sure which hand the kid uses naturally and also what is going to be their dominant eye, because that can be very frustrating. Second piece of advice is let's try to get them in a gun that fits them as best as it possibly can. I know a lot of the parents are working on either limited budgets or maybe they just simply don't know, but gun fit is huge. And when you have not just fitting the gun to them, but I see a lot of smaller frame kids that they're shooting 12 gauges. And that might be the only thing available, but we don't want to create any negative memories for the kids if they're getting hammered with a 12 gauge. Put a 20 gauge in their hand. 20 gauge can break just as many targets as a 12 gauge on a skeet field. You can even argue the same thing on the trap field with the proper equipment and chokes. So I would say we really need to make sure that the kids are just out there having a good time. They're not getting pounded to death. Third thing that I would definitely say after eye dominance and gun fit is going to be patience. Stick with your coach. Listen to them. The thing with the kids is they do run out of patience a little quickly. But the coaches need to be able to kind of steer them in the correct direction, adapt to the kid's shooting style. That way, the kid's not going to get frustrated and just want to quit because we're trying to hammer something into them that doesn't necessarily work. So I would definitely say for the coaches, check that eye dominance, get them in a decent gun that fits them, and then of course have patience with the kids, because if you run out of patience, then the kid's going to get frustrated too. So it's very important as a coach to really contain themselves and really just do the best job that they can.
Thanks, Paul. That's great advice. Our coaches do give of their time, and we thank them. They're the heart of our program, and
Absolutely.
we want to thank you for being here today. I've got something for you. It's the Second Amendment Challenge coin.
Oh, excellent.
You know, it's small pay for taking your time today, but
I appreciate that.
we appreciate it. SCTP is growing skeet shooters for the future. We appreciate your support. I would encourage anybody who's interested in taking lessons, they can get on your website, and
Yep.
Paul is around the country conducting great clinics, and I think you'd enjoy it. And once again, I want to thank you for being
Thank
here.
you
my
very
friend.
much. And I'll tell you what, I'll give the kids just one last little piece is, kids, when you're out there shooting, obviously you want to be safe, you want to have a good time, and then of course, thirdly, is break some targets. Your coaches will be able to guide you in breaking targets, and the one best piece of advice that I can give the kids is always, always, always keep your eyes on that target and see the rims. Thanks again,
Paul.
Dan. Appreciate it, buddy.